All right, sweet.
Hey everybody,
Hey, Matt here with Codify Academy.
and Evan, also with Codify Academy.
So, Evan, a lot of people want to know, why do developers make so much money?
It's a really good question. I'd say the primary reason developers make so much money is not really because it's such a technical field, but rather because they often have to think on their feet.
All right. So a lot of jobs involve thinking.
True.
How's thinking?
Thanks. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, how's thinking like a developer different?
Thinking like a developer involves solving a lot of technical problems on their feet, or on the fly, rather. And when something comes up, a developer needs to find a workaround, a solution, some way to overcome an obstacle pretty immediately, if not rapidly. They might be able to work on a problem, attack it from a couple different angles, find the best solution, but they need to find that solution and they need to find it on their own. They have ownership of that solution, ownership of that obstacle. And finding their way around it is usually the difference between someone who knows how to code and a developer.
Okay. All right. So if we were to break down critical thinking, right? Let's say you're driving for Uber. You could use some critical thinking to decide what are the best hours that I can be driving.
Yeah.
Right. But you're not going to run into a developer level problem, right, where critical thinking is involved. Not that I can think of, at least.
Right. I wouldn't expect so, no.
So, like, I guess an example of like a developer problem, one that just pops into mind right away is, for me, I was working at my first job and the website went down, and I was in charge. So, like, I didn't do anything. Nothing changed. This was actually something somebody accidentally pushed, and then I had to figure it out, right? But I couldn't call for help. I guess that's a big difference, right? I wasn't able to call for tech support. I wasn't able to be like, please solve my problem. I had to figure out what happened and how do I reverse it.
That's a really good point. And also at play here are the stakes. If an Uber driver picks up the wrong fare or picks up a fare who put in the wrong address, Uber doesn't go down.
Yeah.
The other Uber drivers are still out there doing their thing.
Yeah. All right, cool. So how do students go about solving critical thinking problems like this? How do you solve a difficult problem like that?
It may seem trite, but the universal answer is really Google it.
Isn't that cheating, Evan?
It is not cheating, man. It is not cheating. When I say Google it, it actually means way more than just open up Google and type in a question. Googling it is synonymous with this critical problem solving, which all developers go through when they run into a problem. It doesn't just mean typing a search query into Google, although that in and of itself is a skill. Crafting the correct question to ask Google is a big skill in and of itself. But it's more than that. It's also understanding the results which come back to you. You have to be able to parse through a lot of information pretty quickly. You've got to read forums written by coders who don't know how to write natural language, human language that we can understand. You have to read documentation for libraries, plugins, tools you may be relying on. There are a lot of soft and unexpected skills, soft skills, and unexpected skills that go into sourcing a solution independently. But it is critical. It is critical because no developer out there knows everything. No developer is 100% equipped for 100% of the possible scenarios. So Googling it is really just this small way of, or this shorthand for referring to figure it out on the fly.
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense though, right? Because we see new stuff, even in CSS all the time, right?
Yeah.
People are creating new ways to do things. There's new JavaScript stuff on like a minute by minute basis. Constant. So Googling is definitely super critical, and that's something we push our students to do also, which seems odd to people when they first see it. Because if you went to a class in college and the professor was like, Google it, it's not going to come off as really the right thing to do, right? But we have students Google things because, one, we're not going to be there for you on the job. Yeah. When you actually need to find the answer, you're not going to be able to call us up. You can, if it's really serious, give us a call. But you're normally not just going to be able to Google all, or to ask somebody for all the answers. So you need to be able to Google it. And all the answers, at least most of them, are on there, unless it's something so cutting edge that nobody's put anything on there. But that's kind of like also the beautiful thing about the coding world is everything's online. It's an open source environment. Everything's available. That's one of the big things that I really love about coding is that everything is online.
Yeah, I mean the stuff, the sheer volume of stuff that we have access to immediately is insane. It's incredible and unbelievable. I just want to jump in here and say that when we have you Google things, we don't just say Google it and walk away. We don't do that to you, at least not at first. Ideally, you're going to get to a point where you can confidently source a solution of your own. But as I said, Googling something, doing the research, doing the act of comprehending what you're seeing really does take some skills. And what our job here is in this context is to help nudge you in the right direction, help reshape your search queries, help point out maybe this is what you should be focusing on when you ask that question instead of this. Maybe your problem is more related to this thing than that thing. Maybe this solution is for something else entirely, and it's just tangentially related to what you're dealing with. We help you hone your ability to find that solution, but it is still about you finding and implementing that solution.
Yeah, that's a good point because you're not going to get the answer right away normally when you're Googling something, right? You're not looking for what time it is in New York City. It's not going to pop up at the top. You're looking for, you're probably going to phrase your question wrong to begin with, or your search terms incorrectly. But if you do get it right, you normally still have to, filter through a bunch of the answers. Because if you ask a question like, how do I position this one CSS element this particular way, there's not just one way to do it. There's a lot of ways to do it. Another big reason we like you to Google stuff is because you need to learn about all of these different methods and strategies that you can do all of these different things with. It's really mind-boggling. So that makes complete sense. The one big thing that we see happen to students is they get extremely frustrated with Googling things. This is where that frustration comes in because you're going to go to the first, normally what students do is they type in their search query and they're not quite sure if they got it right. And they go to the first link. They open it up and that's not right at all. They have to read through all this stuff and it takes them a while to figure out if it's not right. Then they have to go to the second one, then the third one, then the fourth one. If you've typed in the search query wrong, that really sucks because now you've already, you got to redo the whole thing and try to come up with a new way. That in itself is extremely frustrating because you don't know the terminology you need to use to even find it. Like I thought modals were called splashdowns for years. I don't know why I thought that. And it wasn't until I learned the word modal that I was like, oh man, that's how you find all these things, and I could easily get access to it now that I know what the word is.
Yeah, I thought they were just pop-ups.
Yeah, pop-ups. That's another good one too.
But think about it. Think about it as, if you Google something your very first time, Google a coding problem, and you run into 10 different possible solutions, and you try 9 of them, and they all fail to work.
That will happen.
Finally, the 10th one works. But the next time you search for something related to a similar issue, you're going to see probably those same 9 solutions, or solutions which share recognizable elements with those original failed solutions, and you're going to be able to move past them because you're already going to know those didn't work, they won't work, they don't apply, they're not correct. The more you do it, the faster you will get, the more precise you will get at identifying what's going to help you and what's not. And alternatively, think about it as immersion therapy. If you've ever learned, not immersion therapy, I don't know what I'm talking about. Have you ever learned a foreign language? The best way to learn a foreign language is to immerse yourself in that language. You jump into another country. So even if it takes you an extra hour to find the solution, and even if I could have just given it to you in 60 seconds, in the process of searching for it, you've been exposed to a lot of new terminology, a lot of new jargon, a lot of new search queries, and other problems which you may run into in the future. Even if you don't consume that actively, it's in there. It's been lodged in the back of your brain, and all of this contributes to helping you think, talk, read, search, perform like a developer.
That's a great point. Because, when you actually find the answer, you don't find the exact answer. Like when you Google something, they're not going to have a snippet of code for you to copy and paste. It's super unlikely. Normally what happens is you have to piece it together yourself, which in and of itself is critical thinking. You have to think, how do I, okay, like I got an example of how this person did it, and now I need to get it into my code, but that's not the classes I use, and those aren't the elements I use, and that's not the way that I was using my logic. So you have to kind of break that down, which kind of brings us full circle to, that's why developers make so much money, is it is an extremely frustrating job. You have to go and do all of this research. You have to filter through the research. Then when you actually find the answer, it's not the answer. You have to mold it to become the answer for you.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not just going to work.
Yeah, you have to be extremely adaptable in your thinking. And you have to look past the very immediate trappings of any solution, any scenario, and find out, okay, what's happening here and how can I apply this to my own situation?
Yeah. That's basically why developers make a lot of money, because there's very few jobs that actually do that. And it is so frustrating. I mean, if you don't know and you haven't gone to coding, go give it a try. Go on to like codecademy.com or something like that, and then go try to do like your own thing and see kind of how it feels and the level of frustration. But it's something we've all gone through. All of us have gone through this. That's how you become a developer, is you just push through that frustration, right? The ability to push through it is what makes you hireable, basically.
100%.
Cool. Is there anything else we want to add here? Are we good?
Final thought, imagine you're a manager managing a team of developers. If you ever need to do anything new, anything that updates your product, anything that adds something to a site, if your developers don't know how to do it like this, you're not going to want them to come to you with their questions. You're going to say, this is our goal. This is what we want to do. This is what we need to meet. This is our milestone. Figure out how to get us there. That's the job.
It's so funny you bring that up, because my first job, I had a manager who didn't really know coding, but I kept asking him questions for a while because I didn't really pick up on that too much. And I realized I couldn't ask him questions. And it became my job to find the answers. And he would come to me with like, hey, I want this on the website. And I was like, I've never seen that before. Why don't you let me look and search Google for an hour, and I'll tell you if it's possible. You know?
Yeah, exactly. That's it.
Yeah, that's basically how you get a high-paying job as a coder. Cool.
Yeah. All right.
Sweet first video.
Yeah. Thanks, guys.
Yeah. See you later.